Mikie Sherrill is the Democratic nominee. She's a member of Congress. Is she running from the Phil Murphy record, saying, well, this is him, not me? Or is she embracing him? And is she embracing her own record in Washington? Like, how is that dynamic playing out?
Yeah, the one record she has in Washington, D.C. is that she had to pay federal fines for having broken federal law on stock trades and stock reporting for congresspeople. The New York Times reports that as a member of the House Armed Services Committee, she was trading defense stocks. And in the early stages of the pandemic, she was trading healthcare stocks. In 2019 alone, her first year in Congress, she made over 160 buy and sell trades. And she's tripled her net worth since arriving to Congress. As you know, Sean, one thing people hate is when people use their public office to enrich themselves. But listen, she supports Phil Murphy's policies across the board. But most importantly, like John Corzine, who failed as governor, he wasn't from New Jersey. Phil Murphy has failed us. He wasn't from New Jersey. My opponent's not from New Jersey. So as I like to say, as I go around the state, how about we elect a Jersey guy?
All right, guys, good Tuesday to you. Thanks for everyone who tuned in last night. What a great show with Governor Blagojevich, especially as we're talking about crime in Chicago. They've just launched Operation Midway. So there's a lot happening on the issue of crime, and especially in light of this tragic killing down in North Carolina. But we've got two great guests today. Jack Ciattarelli is the Republican nominee for governor in the state of New Jersey. He has closed the gap. This is a very real possibility that New Jersey joins the column in the Republican side this time. I think we're going to break down. He ran last time, came up just a little bit short. This time he's crushing it, raising a ton of money. We're going to break that down with him. Plus, Jim McLaughlin is going to be here as well, not just to talk about New Jersey, but New York, Virginia, the issue of crime, where Donald Trump stands, and why some of these polls aren't reflecting the big win that Trump's having. So we've got a lot to break down. Tomorrow, Seb Gorka is on the show. He's going to break down everything that's happening in the world of counterterrorism, what we're doing to keep the country safe from getting after that drug boat in Venezuela, to what's going on in Charlotte, North Carolina, to even the transgender killing that man did out in Minnesota last week. We're going to break that down. But before I get to Jack Ciattarelli, I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors. You guys all know, if you're in the business, you are on Medicare, or Medicaid rather, Medicare, or you are a son or daughter and you've got a parent on Medicare, you know it's a mess. And you've got all these shady brokers pushing garbage plans on people that you love. Everyone knows this. They get called all the time. Can you switch? Can you do this? President Trump is back in control, and the Department of Justice is finally cracking down on these scams. They've sued 3 major Medicaid brokers for what they're doing to get seniors to move on. It's a huge, huge racket that's happening. And it's critical that if you are in the market for a new Medicare plan, or love somebody that is on Medicare and you want to get them a better plan, you've got to find out which plans are actually better for you, which provide the services. And there's a way that you can do this. There's an organization, Chapter. It was started by people who went through this personally after their own parents were pushed onto the wrong plan. Its mission is very simple at Chapter. It's to give every American honest, straightforward Medicare advice that they deserve. Here's how they're different. The folks, they're the only Medicare advisor that compares every single plan nationwide, not just a handful, all of them, and figure out how they can save people upwards of $1,000 a year. And it couldn't be easier. In just under 20 minutes, they're going to review all of your options and get you the right plan and tell you if there's a better one. So if you're 64 or older or know somebody that is, give them a call, 978-746-2315 to make sure that your plan is right for you. Again, that number, 978-746-2315. I'll put it in the show notes if you forget or couldn't write that one down. All right, before we get into it with Jack Ciattarelli, I know you guys know I've been up and down my weight my whole life, up and down, a yo-yo. They call it actually weight cycling. You lose 10 pounds, you gain it back, you wait. Half of America is with me on this journey. And if you do it enough, it actually has some bad health consequences like diabetes, liver damage, and heart attack. I mean, you lose the weight, then we fall back into a rut. I know what that's like. It's when you lose 10 or so pounds, gain it back. We've all done it. I think bottom line is, and most people not just need help losing weight, but keeping it off and not getting into that vicious cycle of weight cycling. There's a brand new supplement out Let me show it to you. It's called Lean, and it's not a GLP-1 drug. It is actually not an injection. It's just a simple supplement that you take. It helps control appetite and cravings, and that's frankly probably why most of us weight cycle is because of that. And it helps burn fat by converting it to energy, which helps keep the weight off. So if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, you should add Lean to your diet. Get 20% off when you go to takelean.com and use code Sean. Takelean.com, use code Sean. All right, without further ado, I want to bring in the New Jersey governor candidate on the Republican side, Jack Ciattarelli. Jack, good to see you. Thanks for making time on the campaign trail for us.
Sean, thank you for the opportunity. Great to be with you.
Well, what a fortuitous scheduling of this. You have a poll that came out yesterday showing you right on the cusp of this thing. It's basically the margin of error. Give us a snapshot of where the race stands right now, 2 months out?
Oh, we've got it as a dead heat, Sean. And the great news for me and my campaign is that we weren't at this point until the last weeks of October last time. So I think it's a sign of what I'm feeling all around the state. People desperately want change. And I'm not just talking about Republicans. 4 weeks ago, a Democratic mayor from Morris County, the heart of the congressional district, my opponent endorsed me. Last week, it was the mayor of the 5th largest town in Bergen County, also a Democrat. And then he switched his party affiliation to Republican. And this week, it'll be the mayor of Branchville who's coming out. People all across the state have had it with Phil Murphy's failed policies, Sean, and they realize my opponent is Murphy 2.0.
That's okay. So I was going to ask you, look, I always say that I feel like New Jersey is Lucy with the football. I get really excited. We get close. It just doesn't pull it off. So to give folks a sense of this, in the presidential election, the Republican, Donald Trump, got 41% in 16, 41% in 20, and then it shot up to just over 46% last time around. You came really close, 3.2%. From capturing the governor's office. And that is way, way closer than the 14% that Murphy first won when he ran in 2017. What is going on in New Jersey? Is it the Dems? I mean, and again, I know this is tough for sometimes to answer. Are you running a better campaign? Are they failed more? Are people in New Jersey becoming less? I mean, look, what's going on in the state?
First of all, Sean, you're spot on. Trump performed 10 points better in New Jersey in 24 than he did in 20. I followed up a 16-point loss with a 3-point loss. Last year, he lost by less than 6. And a lot of it has to do with us being a sanctuary city, us being a sanctuary state. Now, the president's done his job. He secured the border. Illegal border crossings are down like 98%. I need to do my job here in New Jersey. When I'm governor, we will not be a sanctuary state, nor will we have sanctuary cities. That is a huge issue for New Jerseyans. They want law and order. They want public safety. And that also means me appointing an attorney general that's going to support our local cops. The current attorney general does not. He's been the most anti-police attorney general we've ever had. And my opponent's going to appoint someone just like him. So we're not going to have that in New Jersey. But the other thing that's going on that's caused a lot of anger is what's going on with people's monthly electric bills. They've gone through the roof. And that has a lot to do with the fact that the current administration, with the support of my opponent, didn't expand our natural gas capabilities, didn't expand our solar capabilities here in New Jersey, didn't expand our nuclear capabilities here, bet it all on wind. And the whole thing has crashed and burned.
I didn't realize New Jersey. I spent the summer in Rhode Island, and the wind up there is a joke. It's bad for the environment. It produces not. I didn't realize New Jersey had gone that hard on the wind.
He shut it all down. We had 6 different electricity generation plants that the current administration shut down. And again, we have 3 nuclear reactors in South Jersey that produce 40% of our electricity, 0 carbon emissions. And he hasn't expanded the footprint down there. Again, bet it all on wind. And 7.5 years later, we don't have a single wind turbine. If he was from New Jersey, Sean, he would understand the Jersey Shore is kind of sacrosanct here. Yeah. Nobody wants it. Male, female, liberal, conservative, black, white. Nobody wants wind farms off our Jersey Shore. He tried to force the issue, and again, it all crashed and burned. My opponent is doing the same thing, forcing wind on us. It's never going to meet our energy needs here.
No. And is that like just off the Jersey Shore, or is that the whole coastline up and down?
It's the whole coastline. There were 3 different giant wind farms that were designated for development. And again, we're so very happy, the whole thing. We fought it tooth and nail here. And it's a big issue. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants those wind farms, but people do want their monthly electric bill down. And I can do that on day one by executive order pulling us out of Reggie. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative has been a failure. The air's no cleaner. Electricity is more expensive, and ratepayer dollars are going to other states for their grid. I could save about $500 million a year, $500 million on day one for ratepayers by pulling out of Reggie. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
So, Jack, is New Jersey different than, say, what's going on in Pennsylvania or New York to your north in terms of, are they finding a similar issue with electricity costs, or is this a New Jersey problem because of what the Democrats have done?
It's because of what the Democrats have done. The Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, our next door neighbor, is burning 7 coal burning plants, natural gas like there's no tomorrow, just cut the ribbon on a new nuclear reactor. They've got the juice. They don't have to import it. They're exporting it. But they're also getting the data centers that are needed to support AI, which is a phenomenal economic development opportunity. And Sean, they're kicking our ass across the board. I don't want to just compete here in New Jersey. I want us to thrive. And the way to do that is producing the juice that's reliable and cost effective. We're not.
Is the change in New Jersey that we've seen over the last couple cycles anywhere specific? Is it North Jersey? Is it South Jersey? I mean, is there an area or a demographic? Is it young men? Is it blacks and Hispanics the way it was with Trump? Is there something that you're seeing that's shifting more than anything else, or is it just a statewide trend?
Well, when we look at Trump's numbers last year and that 10-point improvement over 2020, which, by the way, is the largest swing of the 50 states. So, no, he didn't win New Jersey, but it's still the largest swing, 10 plus points. He was up 31 points with Latino males and up 16 points with black males. And again, these are people who have had it with what's going on in the community with nonviolent crime. These are people that may not be able to send their children to a private school, so the public school is really important to them. And all the changes that these ultra-liberal people like my current administration and my opponent have made to the public school system is a turnoff for a lot of people. And of course, they get hit hard with these monthly electric bills. So these are all the reasons why we saw a real sea change. But listen, know this. We're not the deep blue state everybody thinks it is when it comes to gubernatorial elections. We've won 6 of the last 11 governor races in the state, and I'm really confident this time around with our win, we'll go 7 for 12.
That's what I like to hear. You mentioned Phil Murphy. Obviously, all this is on him. But Mikie Sherrill is the Democratic nominee. She's a member of Congress. Is she running from the Phil Murphy record, saying, well, this is him, not me? Or is she embracing him? And is she embracing her own record in Washington? Like, how is that dynamic playing out?
Yeah, the one record she has in Washington, D.C. is that she had to pay federal fines for having broken federal law on stock trades and stock reporting for congresspeople. The New York Times reports that as a member of the House Armed Services Committee, she was trading defense stocks. And in the early stages of the pandemic, she was trading healthcare stocks. In 2019 alone, her first year in Congress, she made over 160 buy and sell trades. And she's tripled her net worth since arriving to Congress. As you know, Sean, one thing people hate is when people use their public office to enrich themselves. But listen, she supports Phil Murphy's policies across the board. But most importantly, like John Corzine, who failed as governor, he wasn't from New Jersey. Phil Murphy has failed us. He wasn't from New Jersey. My opponent's not from New Jersey. So as I like to say, as I go around the state, how about we elect a Jersey guy?
There you go. When it comes to the point that you were just making about her net worth, she did this sort of rather infamous interview with Charlemagne the God. And I don't know if she just thought it was going to be like a softball, but she had no idea how big her net worth had gotten, which I got to think to myself, how rich do you have to be that you don't know that you've made millions of dollars? Or is it really just a cover because you don't want to admit that you've been trading stocks?
Sean, that interview is a disqualifier. It's painful to watch, as is her interview with Marsha Kramer on CBS out of New York when Marsha Kramer asked her, okay, you're the governor. What do you do on day one? With all the crisis raging around this state, she couldn't answer the question.
What do you mean? She had no answer? That's like that famous Ted Kennedy thing. Why are you running for president? I don't know.
Exactly.
I'll get back to you.
It was the Ted Kennedy moment. Now we got a property tax crisis in the state. We got electricity price crisis. We've got a public education crisis, a law enforcement crisis. Nonviolent crime is through the roof. Overdevelopment is taking place in our rural suburbs. She couldn't answer the question. It's a disqualifier.
Okay, so I like to say that campaigns are made up of two big M's: the messaging, what you're doing. Obviously, you got that down, Jack. No one can fault you for being on message when it comes to what New Jersey voters probably care about, think about, but then there's the other M, the mechanics. Let's talk about that. What is different between the campaign that you ran last time against Phil Murphy and the one that you're running now against Mikie Sherrill?
You know, Sean, the issues aren't really different from 4 years ago. What I'm talking about today, all these things were percolating. They're at a complete boil now. I'll tell you what is different, the landscape. I'm not competing with a pandemic this time around. It's not easy running for governor when there's a shelter-in-place order. And a lot of people agreed that if I had 2 or 3 more weeks, we would have made up that 3%. I'm not running against an incumbent this time around. There's a lot less indifference this time around. As you know, back in 2021, because it was only 12 months after Trump had lost the state by 16 points, a whole lot of people in New Jersey and across the nation didn't think I had a shot in hell. The closeness of the race was a real wake-up call. And here's the other thing that's a big difference this time around. Because of the failures of the current administration, since I ran for governor in 2021, today, compared to 2021, there's 100,000 fewer Democrats and 200,000 more registered Republicans in the state of New Jersey. Now, we're still the minority party. We got work to do, and I'll get it done. But that's a big deal when you consider the closeness of my race in 21.
Yeah. So let's talk money. How are you doing financially versus her, and how is that different than the last time you ran?
So in 2021, despite the pandemic, my finance team, we raised more money than any Republican gubernatorial candidate in history. And this time around, we've already broken that record with about 8 to 9 weeks to go. So we're in a really great position. And as per the most recent public filings, which are required by law, we're out fundraising my opponent. So we're right where we need to be. This really comes down to the energy over the course of the last 56 days. She continues to hide, turned down the third invitation for a debate. She's going to do the 2 that are required by law, but CBS.
Wait, you guys are required by law to debate?
2 are required by law. The first one will be on the 21st of September, but CBS out of New York just invited us to a third, and my opponent turned it down.
Okay, so tell me, I didn't realize this was like a state law. Who runs the first 2?
Yeah, so the Election Law Regulatory Commission decides what media outlets get the debates. And New Jersey Globe got the first one, and I think the second one is ABC, Channel 7 out of New York.
And so the first one's on September 21st, is that right?
That's correct.
And do you guys have early voting?
We do have early voting. Vote by mail ballots will go out the 3rd week of September. And then we have 9 days of early voting leading up to Election Day.
Wow. Okay. So I can't believe, testament to you and your team, Jack. I cannot believe that you're out raising a current member of Congress who, let's face it, has access to a lot of big donors. And obviously just being the electoral history that it does, that says a lot about where you are. How is your ground game different? How are the other mechanical things that you've done or that you might have learned since the first race?
Hey, Sean, make no mistake. We were in it to win it in 21, but the real benefit to me is the entire team is back from what I thought was an outstanding performance in 21. And so it's great to have one of these under your belt. We know what we're doing, and we've got thousands of volunteers all over the state. The RNC has provided us with a whole lot of human resources to help with the canvassing and getting out the message and getting out the literature. We have the money to be on TV and radio and billboards, and we are. So we're in an excellent position. We just need to finish strong. It's all about staying disciplined. And I'm very disciplined by nature. Call that the CPA in me. The team is very disciplined. We're very driven. We've got a clarity of purpose here. We'll get it done over the last 56 days.
I think New Jersey's so unique. I've done 2 races there, South Jersey and then Central New Jersey. It's the 10th largest state, and it has no dedicated media market. You've got Philadelphia to the south and New York to the north. So do you guys have to do anything unique? Is it more mail, more digital than, because a normal campaign, you go in, you buy your points, but it's very expensive to be on New York and Philadelphia. So what do people who might not work or live in New Jersey need to know about how different you have to create a campaign to reach people?
Sean, you're so right about the media challenges here. I mean, this is a state that's always had kind of an identity crisis. That'll change when I'm governor. We're not playing JV, we're playing varsity ball. But, the northern part of the state's kind of been in the shadow of the New York media market. Southern part of the state's in the shadow of the Philadelphia media market. What it means is, in addition to being on radio and TV and billboards and in the mail, you need a candidate that presses the flesh. And I'm going to sound immodest for a second, but nobody gets up and down this state the way I do. There's no less than 8 appearances every day. Every week, we touch every one of the 21 counties. We press the flesh. Last weekend, I was in Patterson, one of the most democratic cities in the state, took part in the Dominican annual parade, and the energy and response and welcome was off the charts. And so we just got to continue to get out there and press the flesh, and nobody does that better than Jack Ciattarelli.
All right. You mentioned the RNC, the RGA, the Republican Governors Association. You got a lot of super PACs. What are the outside groups on your side and her side doing? Are they playing big there? Are they waiting? What's going on in terms of support?
Well, as you know, I have to remain totally independent of the IEs that may be thinking about coming to New Jersey. But listen, if I had a bet, a bunch of them stayed out of 21 just because they didn't think I could win. They now know I can win, and I would hope they'd be in. So we do hope to have them invest in this campaign.
All right. So what about the RGA? You can talk to them. Are they in?
Now, I hope that they are. And for this reason, there's 36 governor races next year. But as you know, there's only 2 governor races this year, us in Virginia. And listen, I get often asked about the national implications of my race here in New Jersey and the message that it sends the country. I'm just worried about the implications for New Jersey if we don't win this race.
Right.
You're never going to hear me say this is the most important election of our lifetime, because I believe all elections are important for equally important for different reasons. But I will tell you this, the future of our state hangs in the balance. We've never been where we are today in so many different ways, and they're all bad. Overdevelopment, the tax crisis, the electricity crisis, the public education crisis, the law, public safety crisis. We need to get a change here in New Jersey, and that's what this election's all about. So I'm just focusing on winning here and changing the direction for New Jersey.
Have you been in touch with the Trump White House about the president or the vice president or anybody coming in to help you in the final stretch?
You know what I'm really appreciative of, Sean, is that the White House has said, including the president, will do whatever it is you think will help. And I really appreciate that, because we know what we're doing here on the ground in New Jersey. And so we're in discussions every week about different ways to leverage the White House and certainly the president to help deliver a win here in New Jersey.
Does that include a visit by either him or the vice president?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you got anything you want to share? Is he coming?
That those discussions are continuing.
Okay. I have a favor to ask. I remember back, I don't know, maybe it was the 90s. Christy Todd Whitman was running for governor, and she went on Howard Stern's radio show. And I think he basically said, if I endorse you, will you name a rest stop after me? You remember that?
I do remember that.
All right. So I'm willing to trade the entire backing of the show. Can I get a rest stop? What do you think?
Considering the liberals whose name appears on some of those rest stops in the Phil Murphy era, absolutely, Sean.
If people haven't driven, the one thing that I still love about New Jersey is whenever you pull up anywhere, they still pump your gas. And I think your prices, when I drive up and down 95, are better than a lot of places where I have to get out of my car. Is that an issue in New Jersey? Do people still want to pump their gas?
No. People like the fact that their gas gets pumped for them. We're the only state in the country that still does that. We've got a number of dubious distinctions. This isn't one of them. People enjoy, particularly in our harsh winter months, somebody else pumping their gas. And to your point, the good news is, despite that, our gas prices are very, very competitive, including better than our neighboring states.
I know. I time my fill up going up 95 by those rest stops, because it's always a great deal. Jack, before I let you go, where can people find you and get involved or help financially?
Jack4nj.com provides all the information anyone would need, Sean. Jack4, and that's the number 4. Jack4nj.com.
All right. Best of luck on the campaign trail. I feel like this is the year. I'm excited about this. And then I get to pick the rest stop, right?
You bet.
All right. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
You bet. What a great conversation with Jack. Before I get into it with Jim McLaughlin to break down the latest polling in New Jersey and New York, I want to tell you about my buddy Leo Grillo. You've heard me talk about Leo before. He founded Delta Rescue. Delta Rescue is the world's largest no-kill sanctuary, not a shelter. Leo loves to tell me that. They take care of dogs, cats, animals, you name it, all sorts of that have been abused, malnutrition, abandoned. Leo takes them all in, and he does this from the kindness of his heart. He's built Delta Rescue up from nothing. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can see the great work that they've done, all the videos, but they don't have any government funding or USAID grants. It's all through the contributions of people like me and you. I've made a personal contribution to Delta Rescue at deltarescue.org, and I would ask you to do the same thing. Check out the great work that they're doing, make a personal contribution, and try to help make this enduring. So if you have an old 401k or stock plan, click that estate planning kit when you go to deltarescue.org and see if you can get help make them an enduring mission. Thank you for visiting deltarescue.org and supporting the great work of Leo Grillo. Without further ado, I want to bring in Jim McLaughlin, the president's pollster. All right, let's welcome back in our good buddy to break down what's really going on in the country, Jim McLaughlin. Jim, always good to see you.
Great to be here, Sean. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. So do you or your brother actually live in New Jersey now, or are you New Yorkers? You're New Jersey, right?
I live in New Jersey now. The company is in New York. John lives in New York. I was born in the Bronx. I was raised in Rockland County, but I've lived in New Jersey. But you know what it is? You know what it's like, Sean. You live in the New York City metropolitan area.
I know. But I just wanted to know. So I told Jack Ciattarelli, he was just with us a moment ago, that I feel like New Jersey is Lucy with the football. We get excited every year. We're going to win the Senate race. We're going to win this. But this seems different, Jim. The trend. I said it to Jack. Obviously, he knows it well. I'm sure you know it well. As you know, Trump first two races 41%, gets over 46%. Ciattarelli comes within 5 of the last time. This brand new poll out shows this thing real tight. Should we get excited about where New Jersey's headed? Can we pull this off in the last 60 days, or is this going to be another aberration out there?
No, I don't think there's any question that Jack can win this race. And I really believe that in my heart of hearts, because something different is going on here. There's a couple things. Sean, you've worked in politics as long as I have, almost. You're not quite as old as I am. But what you have is the question of a good candidate here. Jack Ciattarelli is a really, really good candidate. He understands New Jersey. People literally call him Jersey Jack. And when I'm going around the state, whether it's, over the Labor Day weekend, or whether I'm just going and visiting friends or visiting clients, he is all over the state. He's flat out outworking her. And they're not admitting this, but the Mikie Sherrill people, they're basically trying to run the Kamala Harris campaign, where they're trying to hide her. They don't put her out there at regular. Oh, yeah, they're trying to hide her. Think about it. She's never at an unstaged event. They'll put her out there maybe once or twice a week and, put her with a bunch of Democratic activists. Jack is constantly out there. Like when I was walking around the Jersey Shore, walking on the boardwalk over there, all you see are nothing but Ciattarelli signs. It reminds me a little bit of the Trump phenomenon. And even though Jack and Donald Trump are two very different political figures, Jack, I think, is really connecting with New Jersey voters. And he's gotten better as a candidate every single time he's run. He's run better campaigns every single time he's run. And the voters in New Jersey really want change. You've got about 6 out of 10 voters in New Jersey statewide are telling you the state is off on the wrong track. Phil Murphy's negatives are in the mid-50s. Democrats have controlled the state legislature for the last 25 years. So who are they going to look for? They're going to look for somebody like Jack Ciattarelli, who, one, can make the state more affordable. He knows how to lower taxes. And if you want to know how desperate the Democrats are, the first ad that they ran had a huge lie in it. And what that lie was, they said that he supported a 10% sales tax increase. That's totally not true. And some people are saying, well, it was taken out of context. No, it is a flat out lie. He was talking about the state of Tennessee. He wasn't talking about New Jersey. So that goes to show you just how desperate the Democrats are when they put a lie like that in their first ad.
I did not realize I thought they were just taking him out of context, but he wasn't even talking about New Jersey.
Yeah, he was talking about what they do in Tennessee because he had just gotten back from Nashville. He went to a fundraiser out there, and that's literally where that came from. You know, it was funny when I first saw the ad. I'm like, where did that come from? And then they said it was at an event. Somebody was asking him, what are we going to do to bring down property taxes? And look, Jack is a trained accountant. He's a small businessman. He knows how to do this. He knows how to lower the cost of living in New Jersey. And he's going to do a lot of the same stuff that Donald Trump's doing at the national level. He's going to do deregulation. He's going to cut wasteful spending. And he's going to put a cap on property taxes. He's already talked about it. And look, Mikie Sherrill just made another big mistake in Congress. Her and that Abigail Spanberger down in Virginia, they're trying to pretend to be moderates. Neither one of them are moderates. Every time Joe Biden needed them, every time Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi needed them, they're there. Both those candidates, Mikie Sherrill and Spanberger, just voted for a huge income tax increase, and they also voted for higher property taxes. And those are the biggest issues, especially in a place like New Jersey.
I'll ask you, I want to move on because I do want to talk about New York and potentially Virginia, but like, do you think there's something, I asked Jack this question, like, is there something going on in New Jersey? Is it like a specific demographic or geographical area of the state that's moving, or is it the whole state shifting?
Yep. Look, I think what you're seeing, and you saw it with Donald Trump's results. Donald Trump won Passaic County, New Jersey. Passaic County, New Jersey is almost a majority minority county now. He won overwhelmingly with Hispanic voters. And that's the thing. You can take a Jack Ciattarelli and you can put him in a Hispanic neighborhood. You can put him in a Black neighborhood. You can put him in ethnic, Irish, Italian neighborhoods. You know it. It's just like Rhode Island where you grew up, Sean. It's about building coalitions. And these people, they meet Jack Ciattarelli, they identify with him. And I think he's really connecting with them on a personal level and also on an issues level, that he's the guy that can make New Jersey more affordable. And I think there's another wild card here. The voters in New Jersey, like the voters in South Jersey, they are affected by what goes on in Philadelphia. They see the failures of the liberal mayor that they have down there. And now you've got Northern New Jersey, where they're scared to death that Zohran Mamdani is going to become the mayor of New York City. And I think this is going to help Jack Ciattarelli in places like Northern New Jersey, because they're going to want to check and balance, not just on the failures of Phil Murphy, but also on the extremism of Zohran Mamdani.
So you bring it up. Let's talk about that for a second. I think we are less than 2 months out from Election Day, early voting starting. There isn't been this coalescing around an alternative to Mamdani. Like, you got three other people in there: Sliwa, the Republican, the current mayor Adams is running as an independent, and Cuomo running as an independent. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I have basically said I don't see. New York is going to elect Mamdani. I don't see how. Okay, do you see an alternative to that outcome that I don't?
Man, I'll tell you, it's a city I love. It's a city I was born in. I hate it, but it looks like Zohran Mamdani is going to win. If there was ever a time for the Republicans to put up a good candidate, just like what we did with Rudy Giuliani back in the late 80s, early 90s, this was the time to do it. And unfortunately, our friend Curtis Sliwa just isn't catching on. If you look at that Siena poll, Curtis Sliwa was only getting about 56% of the Republicans. He's only getting about half of the Trump voter. And really? I'm going to give you a little fun fact here, that Donald Trump, last time when he ran for president in 2024, he actually got about 50,000 more votes than what Eric Adams got when he won last time, with well over 70% of the vote. So that's the thing I think that, somebody like Curtis Lee was missing, is he needed to energize those Trump voters that don't normally turn out in mayoral elections, and they would turn out against Zohran Mamdani. He needs to coalesce them and expand upon that coalition. The other thing that's going on, they haven't created enough of a rejection of Zohran Mamdani. They needed to get his negatives over 50%. This guy is insane. He's, no matter what he's trying to tell people now, he wants to defund the police. He supported cashless bail. Sean, he wants to get rid of prisons. There was a New York Post story that just came out yesterday, and it's basically about the 50,000 crimes that have been committed on the subways. It's about 63 people that are committing them, and only about 6 of them are actually in prison. All you got to do is put these recidivist criminals, these people that are doing it time and time again, put them in jail and keep them there. And that's how you're going to solve the crime problem. And what does Zohran Mamdani say? I'm going to get rid of the prisons. It's nuts.
Especially after what we just saw in Charlottesville, North Carolina. Like, explain to me this. Like, I don't understand how the crime issue isn't bubbling up bigger. Like, I can't get my head around that this is not a bigger deal. You can visualize it. As I've said, whether you walk down the street in New York or DC or whatever, I think people know it's real. Trump's addressing it head on. And I get some of the people might not like the tactics, but I'd say, wow, I may not like the tactics, but my neighborhood is safe. My street is safe. My city is safe. Why is that? Is this a lagging indicator? Or do you think, I just can't get my head around why.
It's just how crazy the Democratic Party has become. We asked in our last national survey, do you consider crime a serious problem? 88% of voters said yes, it is a serious crime. Nearly 9 out of 10 Americans. You can't get 9 out of 10 Americans to agree on anything these days, but you have these crazy Democrats. And look, I worked for Mike Bloomberg when he was the mayor of New York City. One of the things that Mike Bloomberg understood was that the most basic duty, one of the most important priorities of any mayor, any elected official, is to keep people safe. And Mike Bloomberg might have been pretty liberal on a lot of other issues, but he was supportive of the police. He understood you had to get the bad guys and the bad gals off the streets. And that was common sense. And a lot of other Democrats did it. I worked for Bob Dole when we ran against Bill Clinton, and those guys cleaned our clocks. One of the reasons that Bill Clinton cleaned our clocks back in those days, he was bragging about what he did with the Republicans at the national level and put 100,000 more cops on the street. Now you have not only the Democrats saying we want less cops, but they're saying they want to defund the police. And this guy Mamdani is basically telling you, okay, if somebody's having some sort of what they think is a mental health issues, who knows? We're going to send social workers out there. We're not going to send cops. And if there's anything that Donald Trump is teaching us in DC, is the more of a law enforcement presence you have. And it's not just National Guard they're putting out there. They're putting FBI. They're putting DEA agents out there. And what it's doing is you're seeing it in DC. Crime is just dropping through the floor. It's not hard. We know how to do this.
Okay, so knowing all of that, and this is kind of what I was asking about, a lagging indicator, I have to believe that when you go in and ask that question again in your next national survey, that it's going to go up. It seems to me rather intuitive. The results speak for themselves. Donald Trump saying, here's how many days we've gone without a murderer, how clean DC is. At some point, you just wake up and go, you know what? He's right. So do you think that, am I wrong? I mean, is there anything that you see in the survey data that suggests that this won't happen that way?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, some of the most supportive groups of President Trump on this issue are Black voters and are Hispanic voters. And I always say with Hispanic voters, one of the reasons they voted in record numbers for Republicans in the last election was because of what Donald Trump did on issues like immigration, issues on crime. And one of the things the Hispanic voters would always tell us in the focus groups is they came here to live the American dream. And there's no way you can live the American dream if you don't feel safe. And what a lot of times what we're hearing from the Black voters, they literally feel like they've been abandoned by the Democratic Party because they're like, why are they not keeping us safe here in our cities? So I am just, this is mind boggling what the Democrats are doing. And I think the big mistake, going back to the New York City mayor's race, is somebody like Andrew Cuomo. He needed to apologize to the voters and say, look, I was wrong when I did cashless bail. We see this doesn't work. It was implemented wrong, but that's not in his DNA. He won't apologize for anything. He needed to stand up forcefully and say, these crazy, radical, insane politicians like Zohran Mamdani, they're nuts. They wanted to fund the police. They want to give us cashless bail. I'm going to protect you. And somebody like Curtis Sliwa, that should have been in his wheelhouse. You know what? He'll go on a radio show and he'll talk for 10 minutes, but he doesn't give you a reason to vote for him. Voters want a reason to vote for them. It's just like Donald Trump did, whether it was on inflation, whether it was on immigration, whether it was I'm going to have peace break out throughout the world. Donald Trump was always, and still does, is always talking about issues. And that's what he's doing with the crime issue. It's just common sense to him.
All right, I want to pivot back to New York before I move a little south into Virginia. If Sliwa were to drop out, and maybe Adams, do you think that Cuomo could pull off a win against Mamdani, or is it a done deal?
I wouldn't say it's a dumb deal, but I think he has a shot. And I think the other thing that's happened with Andrew Cuomo was, look, the national media, the New York press, we all know how liberal they were. They were trying to elevate Andrew Cuomo into this national figure, saying, oh, he could be president and, you know, he'd be our shining light. But one of the things we've seen during the campaign, he sounded old and he sounded weak. He's been horrible on the campaign trail. It's almost like he doesn't, and he really didn't get challenged all those years when he was governor. Like I remember when Rob Astorino, I was working for Rob and we ran against him. They did one debate with like 4 or 5 candidates up in Buffalo. So the questioning, he never really was challenged. And I think the guy is just he's lost his fastball to be perfectly honest. But I think if he's ever has a shot, that's it. Because, you know, I was looking at one poll, it said Mamdani was getting like 75% of the younger voters. Are they going to show up? We'll see.
Yeah.
And if, you know, if they don't show up, if older voters, the voters in the outer boroughs, places like Staten Island and Brooklyn, you know, those ethnic New York City voters come out because they don't want the socialists. But I think the biggest problem they've had is the voters still haven't been educated about all of Zohran Mamdani's radical positions.
That's right. All right. I don't know if you guys are in Virginia or not, but I will say this. I actually feel good about where things are moving. I do think that there's a really good shot that Jack Ciattarelli is the next governor of New Jersey. Yeah. But I also feel like here where I am in Virginia, Winsome Sears has not only closed the gap, but I feel like the wave is moving in the right direction. You're right about Abigail Spanberger. She's trying to present herself as this moderate person that works across the aisle. She's a radical. And I actually feel really good about the ticket because it's the whole ticket. John Reed is lieutenant governor. Jason Miara is his attorney general. I think for the same reasons that we won 40 years ago, the media is overlooking the sort of the momentum that they have in these final 2 months.
Yep. And what makes it very different is Virginia voters, a majority of Virginia voters will tell you the state is moving in the right direction. They like where Governor Youngkin has taken the state. In New Jersey, the vast majority of voters will tell you the state is off on the wrong track. We can't afford to live here, et cetera. So she has to tie into that. She has to tie into the successes of Governor Youngkin. And then the other thing that she has to do is she's got to expose, say, look, the things that you like about living in Virginia, it's a relatively affordable state. Taxes are relatively low here. We've put parents in charge of education. Abigail Spanberger, she opposes all that stuff. And I thought her first ad, the ad where she talks about, she basically doesn't, for all intents and purposes, basically saying, yeah, you know what? That's all about politics, allowing biological men in my daughter's locker room or bathroom or allowing her to compete in sports with her. She doesn't deny the fact that that's where she's voted in the past. And I think what's going to happen is the more that Winsome Sears' campaign can expose her radicalism, whether it's on economic issues, whether it's on these cultural issues, whether it's on things like education, the better off they're going to be.
I agree. I want to ask you a question about approval rating, though. You guys have Donald Trump's approval rating at 52%. I agree with that. I think it might be even a little north of that, but I think that's okay. But then I'm reading in Politico a couple days ago. It says President Donald Trump's approval rating is 44% in the new CBS YouGov poll. 57% of Americans disapprove. And these are similar numbers to the NBC News Decision Desk Survey Monkey poll, which finds Trump approval at 43 with 57 disapproving. They go on to say that basically it's largely driven by this National Guard issue and crime. Here's the thing. I don't buy the, like, how do these guys go 10 points lower than you guys? And frankly, like I said, I just don't feel it. And I know that doesn't sound scientific for you, but it seems so off.
Because it is off, and you have a great political gut, Sean. Look, I haven't looked at those polls recently, and I didn't look at the demographics, but some of these media polls I have looked at is like when they ask the question about who they voted for in the 2024 presidential election, they'll have sometimes like only about a third of their sample, 36% actually voted for Donald Trump. The last time I checked, Donald Trump won the popular vote. He got nearly 50% of the vote. He won all 7 battleground states. So these are the same people that told us Kamala Harris was going to be president. And now they're using these bad media polls. They don't use voter lists. I don't want to bore your listeners too much, but they don't use voter lists. They don't tightly screen to make sure, see who the likely voters are. And what happens is a lot of times these low information type voters, they're more likely to lean Democrat. Donald Trump has a 52% job approval. There was another poll that had him with a 55% job approval rating. And look, every day the Democrats are out there, they're exposing themselves. They're exposing their failures. Like, think about it. Who is the one successful Democratic governor in the country? Who's the one successful big city Democratic mayor? You can't point to it. They have a huge policy and performance problem. I mean, think about it. And look, one of the interesting things with our poll was, the guy who's doubled his support in the poll in the Democratic primary is breathing down Kamala Harris's neck is Gavin Newsom. And his support doubled. You know whose support was cut in half? AOC's. And what he's doing is he's trying to run this radical left wing, and he can do all that stuff, and that is great. Whoever the Republican nominee for president is going to be in 2028, they would just, I will pay Gavin Newsom's filing fee right now, because the last thing that middle America wants to be is Gavin Newsom's California. They know how bad it is out there.
Last question I want to ask you. There's a story that came out that I thought was fascinating. It says AI can't replace polling. Using AI models such as ChatGPT to mimic human respondents betrays the public and provides inaccurate answers. As a pollster, I'm not saying like you, but in the same way that you just talked about cheap media polls, are you worried that like this is going to infiltrate your industry and people are going to start to look at like a ChatGPT poll and it will undermine confidence in public policy?
It already has. And we've experimented with AI. Trust me, it's not there yet. It's not even close. And look, we're always experimenting on new ways to do things. I do things very differently in terms of how we poll and our methodology than what we used to do even 5-6 years ago. So look, and I use AI a lot during the day, during a typical day these days. And I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you do it, something pops up and you're like, that's wrong. And you know, whether it's ChatGPT or Grok, that's wrong. So look, AI is it's an important tool in campaigns right now, but I tell everybody it's not the be all end all. And there's no way that bots are going to be able to give us an accurate opinion of where the American people are, because the other thing is, too, public opinion changes. It changes from week to week. It changes from day to day. You saw it during campaign. So, look, I was crazy enough on this very program a month before Election Day to say Zohran Mamdani was actually going to win the Democratic primary. And look, that's what happened. ChatGPT wasn't telling us that back then.
No. Jim McLaughlin, as always, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I could talk to you forever, Sean. Love it.
Well, but I like to tell people, if you're watching on the First Television Network, Bill O'Reilly gets upset if I go long. So we got to keep it to an hour. Thanks for being with us, guys. Remember, tomorrow we've got Seb Gorka on the show. He's going to break down everything that's going on in not just Venezuela, that attack on that drug boat, but whether or not there's going to be an addressing of the crime issue because of what happened in Charlotte. So much to break down with him. Thanks for being with us. I got a brand new column out at SeanSpicer.com. Sign up there. It's free. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.